Hey guys, I see you made it by the studio today. Well, come on in. You're really welcome here. I appreciate you coming and checking out the videos. Remember to subscribe. I have a lot more videos that I think you'll be interested in. I would like to go over a couple of things on this particular video that I think will be of big interest to you, and that is specifically how great of equipment do I need for my studio to make a quality recording. How much equipment do I need? How much do I need to spend? And how much do I really need to invest in my studio? And to get a world-class recording, don't I need to have world-class equipment? Well, yes and no. First of all, if you haven't checked out my other videos, specifically there's one on the must-haves for a project studio. Click on it right over there. After you watch that video, go check that video out right now. In fact, go ahead, stop what you're doing, go check that video out. That'll kind of give you an overview of what you really do need, and then come back here and I'm going to explain in a little bit more detail about what you really need as far as good quality equipment in the studio. Now that said, I'm going to assume that you've watched that video and there were the must-haves that you got to have. You got to have your computer, you got to have your microphones or whatever, you got to have something to hear it back on. Now, the better the tools that you have, the easier it's going to be. Now, the thing is nowadays the tools are so great available to the consumer, unlike 20 or 30 years ago where only the world-class studios could afford the items that you would need to record something and to lay it down, to multi-track even. And it was so extremely expensive and it was very costly. However, with the age of computers and the home studios and the recording software, the mics available, the equipment available, the software plugs, the instruments even, the choices are just endless. But you know, we're living in a great day right now to where those choices are really great. You can have great recording equipment and it can just all be in your computer. I've got what would be considered $1 million studio, probably in the 1970s or 1980s age. I've got unlimited tracks in my studio. I've got preamps and fairly new pieces of equipment that rival some of the older preamps. Now I understand the boutique preamps and that sort of thing, but quite honestly, to me, the older stuff, as good as it is, it's popular because it offers a flavor or it offers a choice, but is it really better than something that you can get nowadays? The camera that I'm using right now, this isn't a very expensive camera at all. In fact, I'm just using a very inexpensive Sony point and shoot type camera, but it offers great video, as you can see. And so the equipment isn't the limiting factor in making great music. Now, I understand that you need to have at least your gear in working order, and it has to be to where it's not a struggle. Now I'm a guitar player, and I've always said when you want to start guitar, get the best guitar that you can when you're starting to learn how to play, because if you're struggling with the instrument, then it doesn't become any fun, and you're not practicing, but you're struggling with overcoming the limitations of that particular instrument. And the same is with your studio. Don't have equipment that's constantly shorting out. If you have a bad mic cord going into your mic and that gives you problems, get your equipment in working order and at least have the basics. Like I say, have those must-haves that I talked about in the other video, and have those basics in working order. Then as you start to progress, you'll see that, well, there's certain other things that would really help my music recording, my songwriting, my general production, and then I'll aspire to that. Now, granted, there are some certain plugins that are certainly very music inspiring. For instance, if you haven't heard the Spectrasonics Omnisphere plugin, that's a virtual synthesizer. It's incredible. Now, it's a $500 plugin, but as compared to what it would have cost to have that type of synthesizer years ago, it would have cost thousands and thousands of dollars. However, now I'm not saying the synthesizer writes the music in this particular case, but having something like that can inspire you to come up with something that may be extremely musical. It'll kind of jolt you in that position when you play a certain sound in that synthesizer. You go, well, that will give me a good idea. Maybe I can kind of base a song around that, or this little lick that I played on it sounded especially neat because of the way that the synthesizer reacted. Now, I have a lot of guitars because a lot of my guitars are used for different purposes. I have the Stratocasters that give me a nice clean Stratocaster sound. I have a lot of guitars with humbucking pickups. Of course, I have a bass guitar. They're dedicated for playing bass, obviously, and 12-string guitars. So those are all tools. Do I need all of those? No. But I have accumulated those over the years, and I find that it helps me with what I'm trying to say musically. But I could certainly write a great song with just one acoustic guitar, one microphone, and my computer, and that would be set to go here. Now, you notice, or maybe you can see, I don't have just one set of speakers. I've got 3 sets of speakers. That may be overkill. Do I need 3 sets of speakers? No, I don't. But I could just probably do music just on my little tiny Aratone speakers here, or the Yamahas. You might want to check out the reviews on those speakers that I did in another video, by the way. But those speakers, by having a variety, helps me to understand how the music will translate over different setups. That's why I have variety here. When I have a variety of guitars, I can maybe pick up a guitar and say, well, acoustic would sound good in the intro here, and then I could morph into some electric guitar, and then maybe I would need a special electric guitar for the solos. Now, we're all talking about production here. Do the instruments make the song? No. First of all, realize you need to write a great song first. That's the first and the core, but having the extra equipment just makes things easier. It's like a carpenter. If he went to the job and just had one hammer, one screwdriver, could he build a house? Well, eventually he could, because that's all he would have to use and at his disposal, but it would take him a longer time to do it, but he could eventually do that. If you look back at the people in the days of past, did they build houses with miter saws and radial compound saws and that sort of thing? Of course not, because they didn't exist back then. One thing I do want to caution you, you can get just caught up in having tools, and that almost verges on becoming a collector. And you want to make sure that I am just not collecting tools for tools' sake. You've heard of G.A.S, or gear acquisition syndrome. Don't let that be your influence, because therefore you can have just too many choices and be overwhelmed by your choices. But when you select your gear, make sure that you make a quality selection, and it doesn't have to be expensive. This is a perfect example right here, the Shure SM58 microphone. That's a quality investment. It wasn't expensive, but it's just another tool. I use this RE20 Electro-Voice mic because to me it works a lot better. It's a little bit more forgiving as I move around versus the 58 there. And so it's just another tool. Could I make the video with the SM58? Yes, of course I could. But I chose to use another tool. That's really all I want to say on this. The equipment doesn't make or break the deal. I'm sure you know plenty of musicians that don't have a variety of guitars, but the one guitar that they have, they just sound utterly fantastic on. So learn your instrument, learn your tools, and as you grow, you'll find out what tools do I need to add to my toolbox to make my music better. Well, I appreciate you coming by the studio today. It's really good to see you. Thanks for checking out the video. Remember to subscribe. That's really important because there's a lot more information on these other videos that I'm sure that you'll want to see. These aren't videos that you want to pass up. Again, thanks a lot. We'll catch you in the next video.